Hello, welcome everybody once again to Puzzle Jam Global. This is our fifth session. We've got two wonderful speakers lined up for you today. I'm Joyce Yu. I'm your Master of Ceremonies for the day. I am a huge puzzle lover and also the co-founder of Puzzworthy. All right. We also want to remind you that this event is possible because of Puzzle Jam, which is a nonprofit organization, and they run on membership. So folks doing regular donations, and that helps them to put on events like these and Puzzle Jam South, which is coming up in September. All right, with that, let's get into our next session. So this topic is called Tricky Pieces and Serious Play. So this is all about some of the more challenging aspects to designing and also solving puzzles. So we have two speakers for you today. And first up is going to be Jasen of Stumpcraft Puzzles. I'll introduce him, he'll do his talk, and then we'll have a talk from Kim of KK Puzzles, and then we'll have them both come together for a Q&A session. So first up being Jasen. So Jasen is the founder of Stumpcraft Puzzles. He's also the chief experience officer and a puzzle craftsman. So he does design a lot of those puzzles himself. They're based in Canada. He says that he sees puzzles as an artful way of Trojan horsing attention curation and embodied participation, and to unlock whole brain processing and solutionary thinking. And we'll share one of his favorite quotes from R. Buckminster Fuller, which says, "When I am working on a problem, I never think about beauty, but when I have finished, if the solution is not beautiful, I know it is wrong." So with that, Jasen, we'd love to bring you to the stage. I'm going to turn off your mic here, or turn on rather your mic here, and let you take it away.
Thanks, Joyce. Appreciate you reading through that mouthful of words. Well done. All right. So I was invited to kind of follow up on a talk I gave at the Puzzle Parlay. And so that particular chat was about some of the design lenses that I use when I design puzzles. I've been listening in on the past presentations, and it's great to hear that educational, that learning theme come through, because I do design the puzzles with that lens very much in mind. The two lenses that I mentioned as part of that Puzzle Parlay talk were a bit of a care lens and then the ramp lens. And the ramp lens really relates to that educational, that learning design lens that I use when I'm designing the puzzles. And so one of the puzzles I was working on at the time was the puzzle Silent Communion. And I really want to embed this idea of a learning ramp into the puzzles. And so we'll explore what that means with respect to that specific design. Just to address what I do in terms of coming up with ideas, I essentially adopt this combinatorial play, or this combinatorial creativity. I'm constantly reading books. I'm constantly listening to podcasts, interviews. I'll have conversations with my neighbors, and absolutely everything gets put into the blender, and hopefully something delicious emerges. And that's what I'm trying to do with the puzzles. What we're going to do is we're going to look at Silent Communion. I'm going to show you the solution. So this is your spoiler alert. If you, I guess one of the questions I had is how many people have solved one of our Stumpcraft puzzles, and specifically how many folks have attempted Silent Communion as a puzzle. If you haven't done a Stumpcraft puzzle, you're going to get a little bit of behind the scenes. So fortunately, our memories generally are quite awful. So whatever I reveal here shouldn't spoil too much of your experience, but we are going to start at the end. And then by doing so, you'll kind of infer, hopefully, what goes into the puzzle design. So on the left-hand side, we have the image, and you can see faintly in the light black lines the puzzle cut. On the right-hand side are all the whimsical elements that I've thrown into this particular puzzle. So you'll notice some colors, some particular shapes. Maybe I'll just call out, what is it that you see now that those whimsical shapes are a little bit more prominently displayed on screen? Triangles, squares, we've got arrows, we have geometric shapes, mountains, triangles. Thanks, everyone. The tangrams. Wonderful. Yeah, so I'll just break down some of those elements. Keep throwing your answers into the chat. Um, in the red, those red highlights are really the geometric shapes. And at the core of that is the idea of throwing in tangrams as an overall theme for the puzzle pieces. So as a kid, we were at, Patrice was talking earlier about what makes a good puzzle for kids. So one of the earlier puzzles that I was introduced to as a kid was a tangram. 7 geometric shapes that make hundreds of other unique animals, characters, unique and interesting shapes. So I chose about 30 shapes that relate to kind of the spirit of adventure, going and climbing up a mountain. And so those are the characters that you see also in red. The objects that I picked were tools, animals you might meet in the wild, and then various adventurous poses for the character who's navigating his way or her way up the mountain. Let's see, what else can I point out? The arrows actually point the way up the mountain in general. You'll note that there are 5 numbers, and they start at the bottom at 1, then up to the middle point on the right-hand side. You see a number 2 in the water. Then going to the left-hand side, we've got the 3 on the island, and then 4 right in the middle of the puzzle, and then 5 approaching the top. And the other thing I'll point out that should be obvious is you have all these letters. They are oddly flipped and mirrored instead of being facing forward. Down at the bottom where the 1 is, all of the letters are intact. And so we see the word hour in a reflected pattern. Then the next color, we've got the orange. We've got the word highest that has been broken into 3 chunks, but has maintained the relative rotation orientation. And then as we progress up the mountain, that word puzzle gets harder and harder. So under the purple, we have the word potential, and those are slightly rotated, but still fairly tight. Then even more rotated and more broken out. As we head up to the white area, all of them are kind of mixed up and not ordered, and it's even worse at the top in the light gray. All of which to just reinforce this idea of a ramp. We're going to start easy at the bottom, but as you progress through the adventure of this puzzle, things do get difficult. And hopefully by the end, by reflecting back on the journey of the puzzle, you can see what you've accomplished. So that was the design intent behind here. If you take out all of these letters, you could technically solve it and then flip it in a mirror, which was meant to be the reflection of your journey reflected in the lake at the base of the mountain. So that was the background. Whether that experience is what you get is I guess up for testing. I would certainly invite you to be a participant in this puzzle. So in all of our puzzles, we do provide a list of the whimsy pieces that we throw in. So there's 37 letters that or chunks of letters that make up the aphorism or the poem that's hidden within the puzzle. We've got 12 adventurous poses in tangram shapes. 11 friendly animals that are befriending the adventurer on their voyage. We've got the 7-piece tangrams, and so on and so forth. We've got a little bit about the tangram and what it represents historically. And for all of our puzzles, we do a deep dive where some of this background information is shared in writing on our blog. So just kind of going back over some of the broad themes, the increasing challenge as you move up. So kind of that ramp mindset, the inclusion of the tangrams, the hero's journey as you move up the mountain, the narrative of transformation as you get more skilled at puzzle solving. So you do an easy puzzle, you notch up, right? So that Goldilocks zone that Patrice was talking about, if it gets too easy, just notch it up, notch it up, notch it up. And if you look back, you'll see how much growth you've experienced over time. And then the other thing I tend to throw into my design is I'll do contextual locks. So it was too zoomed out for you to see, but in the grasses, I would have had kind of grassy looking locks. In the water, I'll have ripples designed. In the rocky formation, it's kind of blocky. And then in the clouds, we've got these fluffy, bubbly elements as locks. And then referring back to those the numbers that are in the puzzle, these are some of the lessons that I would assign to each step along that ramped journey. So before you embark on a journey, it is important to gather your wits, your friends, and your tools. So you've got lots of those animals and tools down in the lower section of the puzzle. To learn to swim, you have to dive in and get wet. There's no way to swim without getting wet. So just get in there and see what happens. If you are concerned about getting wet, you can stay close to shore. You don't have to dive into the deep end right away. Next, for 3, you do need to practice and prepare to take leaps of faith. So when you do face a challenge, you might want to practice the easy stuff. Maybe you want to practice the hard stuff in a safe environment before you do it for real. So that's the learning at step 3. As you'll observe the little adventurer climbing up the mountain, they make the leap from the island where the 3 is across to the other side. They make it up, but then they slide down the snow ramp back into the water. And so just highlighting the fact that you will face setbacks, but that shouldn't keep you down, and you should climb back up the mountain. And finally, number 5 is that reflection of, once you're at the peak, I'm not sure if you're hikers, but I happen to be. There's lots of mountains nearby in Calgary. One of my favorite things is to go out and visit the mountains. And the most thrilling thing is when you're at the peak of your experience, to look back and look at, how far down that hill is the parking lot, and the amazing thing you've accomplished along the way. So there's the solved poem, if you will. I'm showing the back, but you can see that the pieces are actually color-coded, so you can grab all the greens and that will be a line. You can grab all the oranges, that will make a line, all the whites, so on. So you could, if you wanted to, as I mentioned before, solve it face up, grab a mirror, and you'll see this in the colored version. All right, I'm just going to quickly go to the chat and see if there's anything else, but I also want to keep time and a clock for Kim. So I might just leave it there. And if there's any questions, I'll scan the chat and maybe loop those themes back into our conversation.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. That was super fascinating. I know the chat thought so too. So next we will hear from Kim Keiser of KK Puzzles. And Kim here makes puzzles cut on wood using vintage art and designs predominantly from original book pages. And she adds all her favorite details that she feels makes good puzzles: color line cutting, shaped puzzles, intricate pieces, and sometimes monochrome images. She is a newer hand-cut wooden puzzle maker that is making a name for herself with tiny and torturous pieces. So, Kim, take it away.
Before I was a cutter, I was a puzzler. I'm still a puzzler, and the difficult puzzles are my favorite things, my absolute favorite things. So, that first question is, what makes a puzzle tricky? And they're number one, it's subjective. It's a different answer for every single person. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what I think about that. One thing is the unexpected. If you're used to doing a square puzzle, you expect all your edges to be square, you expect certain things to happen. So any trick that is unexpected is one way to surprise someone and make it a little tougher. The puzzles I love that are really hard, I find I have to like change my approach. I get stuck. I'm trying to find the edges, and then all of a sudden maybe that doesn't work and I have to try something else. Sorting by colors or sections, and that doesn't work, and try something else, or solve by shape. All different approaches to figure out where a piece goes. And there is that question, tricky versus too hard. Is there any puzzle that's too hard? There are a few that aren't my personal favorite. A puzzle with every single piece exactly the same that fits multiple places, that's not fun for me. And I do have a little picture of a puzzle you probably do not want to ever try. And this is the Fool's Gold giveaway 1001 piece puzzle. That is, yes, just sawdust. Here's an example of a puzzle that I was working on and was stuck. I had found all the edge pieces that I could fit together, and it's push fit again, which that is probably one of the trickiest things of all. But everything obvious was done. I had all my pieces sorted, and you have to decide, okay, now what? So that is my favorite kind of trick. So opportunities with edges is a really great example. And I have some fabulous puzzles that I'm going to show. This is a puzzle by Persimmon Puzzles with just amazing edges. When I was doing this puzzle, I was busy going, oh, these edges right here. Where's that piece? That should be so obvious, right? But no, there's no such piece. False edges, just a straight edge that doesn't actually go on the edge, or a split corner. That's this example right here, where the corner piece, you can't tell it's a corner. Here are two other great shaped puzzles in my collection that I absolutely love. This is turning taxis with the cutouts and the non-standard shape, and this is a puzzle wood puzzle. Another one is split tabs, and I think Mark Capitella is sort of the master of the split tab. You see this little puzzle, and there's this piece right here, and as you take it apart, these two sections are the tab. So when you're working on your puzzle, trying to solve by shape, you're trying to think, where does this go, or where does that go? And you cannot find it because you can only solve it when you put them together. Another great example of a trick. One other great tactic is different size pieces or different shapes in the same puzzle. And these are three different makers. This top one is Pastime. So you see there's these very small pieces, but also very, larger pieces. This is Lucretia's Pieces, another example. And over here is a puzzle cut by Jill Walterbach, where some very, very small pieces and relatively big pieces in the same puzzle. Color line cutting is another thing that's super tricky. This is a puzzle I cut, and there's color line cutting throughout, and I've got a zoomed in version to show you how that can make things really tricky. So right here, you see this woman's handbag. If you were looking at this piece and trying to find something, you're probably looking for a white knob. But a white knob is not what fits in there because the color line cutting has hidden that. A lot of these are the same examples. All this gold, you are not looking for gold in between. The mirror, same kind of thing. So color line cutting, definitely a great trick. And then to make things super tricky, I think you combine multiple tricky elements in one puzzle. So this one is a puzzle I cut. It's got color line cutting. It's got dropouts. So all around the lily pads, these are dropouts. And it's a monochromatic image. And the owner of this puzzle, who is a friend of mine, told me while he was working on it, he kept thinking I must have made a lot of mistakes because something looks like pretty bad about this one for a while. So again, that unexpected. And then he got it like, oh no, they're not mistakes. It's actually cutouts around the puzzle. This is another one that I cut, a non-standard border. This has extensive color line cutting, edge pieces that look like color line cutting. So this right here, you might be looking for where that goes, all these pieces, and then another, we'll kind of zoom in and you can see those boots are aligned, these little color knobs add to that tricky component. And then I'll show you a couple more. This is just a devious puzzle. This is cut by Tom Spencer. It's called Mushroom 2. Got the non-standard border, those repeated swirls throughout the puzzle, no image at all, just wood grain. And this one, took multiple sittings and multiple, sort those pieces in a different way to figure out how I can make some progress. And then one of the trickiest puzzles I have ever done. This one belongs to a friend of mine, and she let me borrow this. This was Jasen puzzles cut by Melinda. And this one was just crazy because, you see there are extra pieces. There are these pieces all around the border, these black pieces like this. And, you finally get there and figure out, oh, I've got these pieces that have to go. And I try this one in every possible way and cannot figure out where it goes. Well, because it doesn't. There are extra pieces, which is just diabolical. One of the most difficult things I've ever seen. The repeated shapes, non-standard border, and then that nonsense. So those are some examples of the puzzles that I've done that are tricky, and a little bit about what I find fun about tricky puzzles.
Thank you, Kim. That was super fascinating. And yes, diabolical, I think, is a great word for some of these features for sure. All right, I'm going to bring Jasen back onto the stage as well. And Jasen, I'm going to turn your mic back on, and we'll do a Q&A with both of you. And you two are welcome to kind of, facilitate discussion with each other as well. Before we get into the audience questions, was there anything that either of the two of you wanted to sort of discuss with each other, ask each other?
Well, I think a lot, I saw some questions previously about hand cut versus laser cut. And I think that a lot of the tricks can work absolutely both ways.
Yeah, that roster of design elements are absolutely, other than the extra pieces, I have not done that. I think that's a bridge too far, but I might add it to the arsenal.
I have to admit I've done it, but the person who has the puzzle, I don't think has tried to solve it yet.
Yeah. I'm curious because, so Kim, you do hand cut, Jasen, you do laser cut. Has either of you tried the other one at all?
I have not.
I tried one at Parley, but I have done some hand cuts, and they are amazing. It's definitely a different experience, but I use that as the inspiration for the laser cut. I don't think I can match. It's not quite the same experience, but I try to use the same tips and tricks that Kim was mentioning as much as I can.
And I actually, one of my favorite puzzles that has that multiple sizes as a trick is a Stumpcraft puzzle, Carnival, which is one of my favorite hard puzzles.
Very cool. Yeah, and for anyone who was at Puzzle Jam South, I think a couple years ago, so Tara and Janelle collaborated on a puzzle. So Tara had originally hand cut a puzzle and then sent it to Janelle, and Janelle kind of used that cut design to then make duplicates that people used in the speed competition. So there's definitely room for collaboration across the two, I suppose. Yeah. All right, another popular question here is how do you plan and then execute adding whimsy pieces? How does that come together?
Do you want to go first, Kim?
I'll answer the question. I do not use any template at all. So for any whimsy in my puzzle is either color line cutting, so a little piece that the line cuts allow, or I have a couple of times done a freehand cut, the man in the moon, that sort of thing. Just so for me, it's like, oh, what did the puzzle want right there?
Yeah, for me, I have not attempted a hand cut, but I think the right word is frightens me. The idea of making a mistake and screwing something that I've worked for hours, if not days, it's not something that really appeals to me. So I commend Kim and any other hand cutter out there that is willing to just throw it all on the line and make something beautiful just in the moment. I'm much more of a slow, methodical. It takes me, as some of our fans know, it takes me weeks, months, sometimes years to come out with a puzzle design. So I'm much more about the slow design process. I will lay things out, try a couple things. Typically, it's the whimsies that come first, and I'll lay them out in a way that makes sense, and then do the backfill of the extra swirly lock cuts. I am playing a little bit with that. So a few of the latest designs have done the opposite, where I've designed all the background matrix, if you will, and then work with the whimsies after the fact. But typically it's the opposite.
Very cool. And then does the art or image inspire the cut or puzzle design, and how so?
For me, the answer is absolutely. And I have learned that I should never pick up a puzzle and start to cut it until I'm ready, until I know what I want to do. So I have had, and I have right now, stacks of puzzles mounted on wood that are sitting on my desk. But until I look at it and go, oh, I know, like I just see what I want to do with it, then I should not touch it. Otherwise, it's just not going to be as good until.
Yeah, and I'm the same. That's perhaps a bit why it takes so long for me to get to to the design. Is I'm willing to sit for many months with a piece of art until it speaks to me. I will pick art that already speaks to me, but I'm not really sure what to do with it. And oftentimes, when it's time to work on a puzzle, it's very timely. So the puzzle I'm working on right now is bridge across the Fraser River. Bridging has become a bit of a theme in my community and in my life. Bridging great divides for whatever reason seems to be relevant for us Canadians, perhaps others as well. So that will be the focus of the theme for my next design, and the timing seems right.
Awesome. Do you have any tips for puzzlers on how to navigate some of the trickiness that you put into your puzzles? Hints.
Sure. I think what I said is like what makes something tricky, it's the unexpected. So thinking about what assumptions you have, like, oh, that piece is missing. I can't find it clearly. There's a missing piece. Oh, I've thought that like 100 times. And I know, like, no, it's probably not. I just think it's going to look like this and it doesn't. So I think just being willing to come and look from a different perspective. I'm a sorter. So like I sort and I like to do it for two reasons. One, I want to like see every piece. I'm stuck and I'm like, all right, well, I don't see where to go here. I have to sort them a different way. Am I going to sort by looking for shapes that look like this? Or so that's sort of my approach.
Yeah, I'm a big sorter too. So I'll sort by shape. I'll sort by color. Um, Edge pieces with our puzzles typically don't help because we're throwing that at you, right? So in terms of expecting the unexpected, and I think for both Kim and I, we're playing with that constantly. We're always playing with what you expect and delivering the opposite to a certain degree. So at least that's what I'm trying to do. So every puzzle is unique. You may have solved one puzzle. If you go into the next puzzle, take what you've learned, but I'm probably going to throw something weird and curveball at you. Other tips, I think, putting yourself in the mind of a designer, perhaps. What is it that the designer is wanting to do, and sitting with that, and then listening to what the puzzle is saying. So if a puzzle piece fits one way but doesn't look right, then it's probably because it doesn't go there, and that is probably intentional. And if it's done once, it's probably done more than once. I often get feedback on some of our puzzles where, like Lotus Kids as an example, we get a lot of comments about there's a whole bunch of missing pieces. What have you done? And no, there are that many missing pieces because there are 0 missing pieces. That you've just misinterpreted the information, if you will.
Right. Yeah. I've done Lotus Kids. It was very tough. I made a video that involved lots of swearing. So I definitely, know firsthand.
I highly recommend, if you want to fund your puzzling hobby, just keep a little swear jar next to you, and just is $1, $5, whatever you want. Depends on how bad the swearing is, I suppose. You can decide how you fund your next puzzle purchase.
That is great advice. And now people are just going to be swearing on purpose just to.
You are welcome to.
All right. What are some ways of making tricky puzzles that are maybe particular to hand cut puzzles versus laser cut? Did I say that? Laser cut versus hand cut that might be hard to do with the other?
Do you want me to go first, Kim?
I think, I haven't made them both yet, so I don't know for sure. I think about with hand cut, you can decide in the moment, like the cat puzzle I showed you. It was a rectangular shape, and I decided, oh, it's going to be this other shape. I could even decide midway through making the puzzle if I wanted. Like, let's say it didn't happen in this case, but it's happened before, a mistake. I'm working on a puzzle and I make a bad mistake somewhere. Well, I would think about all the ways I can make that into a smaller puzzle that's still going to work and hide my mistake. So you get some of the opportunity to save yourself on those hand cuts.
All right. How do you select and find art for your puzzles?
Jason, you want to go?
I will visit galleries. So if I'm traveling, I'll visit galleries. I'm often at craft markets. So we do a lot of local craft markets, and there are other artists there. Often I'll enter into conversations with them at that point, and then we try to shore up missing elements in our repertoire, I guess. So if there's we don't really have an Easter puzzle as examples, so that's something that's lacking. So I'll have that on my list of things to keep an eye out for.
And I really love old books, and it's especially the old book and the cover's gone, so people think it's like worth nothing anymore. Those pages have high reg content. They hold up really well when they're cut, and love the old fairy tale images, which you'll often find in color. So I've got a big stack of antique books downstairs, and it's a little bit of trial and error because not every single old piece of old paper holds up nicely. So sometimes that's a little bit of a mistake. I made a puzzle for my son once, who is in the Air Force. He loves planes. From the cover of Popular Mechanics from the 1920s, right? And it was, I love it, but the paper's just like going to disintegrate. And my sweet son was like, oh, okay, we'll just get that one framed. It'll be a picture. But So there's some challenges with that, but I absolutely love using old original book pages.
Awesome. So this is probably for Kim because it's about hand cutting, but when you hand cut a puzzle with tricks, do you plan the tricks ahead of time or does it come together organically as you go?
I think that I'm always, I love tricky puzzles. So it's always sort of in my mind, oh, I'm going to make it tricky. And color line cutting is just part of what makes it really, really fun for me. So usually, like I had a puzzle once with fish, and it has probably 50 fish in the front, and it's sat on my desk for almost a year. And I just kept going, I want to make those fish puzzles, but I don't see how to do it. Don't see how to do it. Finally I did, right? And then I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. And so then I'll think about, once I know what I'm going to do, how do I make it even harder? Well, let's make every connector at the face look relatively the same, so you don't know which one goes there. So definitely sometimes I'm thinking about how can I make it tricky, but other times, I decide, oh, this is a style I'm going to cut this in, but as I'm going, I can go, look, I can do this over here.
Yeah, very cool. This is for both of you. What kinds of tricks do you find are most fun, and are there any tricks that detract from a puzzle for you?
I do quite a bit of line cutting, which is, not something that most laser cutters really attempt to do. So that's, I don't shy away from that. Um, I like it. I'm a big shape puzzle solver. So I tend to reinforce that with a lot of line cutting. I Let's see. I haven't personally done a lot of dropouts. Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I like that idea. So maybe that's something I need to try out. And then the other thing I tend not to do is I tend not to do internal cuts. One thing that I personally dislike when I'm solving a puzzle is kind of like those donut shaped. If there's maybe it's my aversion to Timbits. If for those of you who are familiar with Timbits, I don't like the donut hole pieces. Right. So if you're picking up a wooden puzzle and there's an internal piece, you have to constantly put that internal Timbit, that internal middle piece in constantly if you're shifting that lump around. So I tend to avoid those. Those are the ones that I don't like. Puzzles that don't have enough locks is the other issue I have. So I tend to load my puzzles with locks.
In fact, I love a push fit puzzle. That's a whole different kind of challenge, right? I love them. I I do. There are some that I don't like, and it's mostly a puzzle. The almost all the pieces are exactly the same shape. That is not very much fun for me because I feel like that's personally for me that just feels tedious, and it's not like the fun of, oh, now what do I do next, and let's try this other thing. So I like the puzzle solving to be a puzzle that you're working through all the time, and I don't want to keep feeling like I'm doing the same thing over and over. Oh, let's look for which one of them could that one be that all look the same. But other than that, I think I like just about every trick.
Gotcha. All right. And do you ever get feed or input from the artist regarding the cut or feedback before you finalize?
I can go on that. I think most of our artists are not puzzlers primarily. They maybe dabble. Most of them are not wooden puzzle solvers, and so I often will get some information about the artist, or I'll do research and embed design elements. With respect to my latest design, Aurora's Kiss, that one was very collaborative. I had Julie send me a list of 30 whimsies, and I threw those in. But that's not the typical process.
Gotcha. Very cool. And then last question for Kim, what is your hardest puzzle that you've made?
Mm, I don't know. I don't do my own puzzles. Sometimes I do, but not always. I just finished cutting one this morning. I think it's a little bit of a doozy. It's a big circus thing that's probably going to be about 500 or 600 pieces. So that one's going to be fun. I think I did one that I know was a little tedious. It was a monochrome map with a lot of swirls. I think that one was a pretty tough one too, and maybe the next one I make will be even harder.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome. Well, but that's all of our questions. Thank you both so much. That was really fascinating and interesting. And I learned lots of new terms, which I'm sure I'll forget some of them immediately, but thank you. And thank you to all of our speakers who were here today and for sharing all your wonderful knowledge. So to wrap it up and bring it home, I want to pass it off to our amazing founders and organizers, Janelle Amelli and Tara Rogers, to just help us wrap up and bring it home. So thank you, everybody, and take care.
So I'm going to start our little thank you slideshow. I'm Janelle, by the way, and this is...
I'm Tara.
Like Joyce was saying, we want to have a big old thank you for all of our speakers, and then an extra big thank you for Joyce, Master of Ceremonies, Debbie, your chat ninja, all of the puzzle companies who entertained my crazy idea of doing Puzzle Island. And they supported this event through prizes. All of our Master Puzzlers Club members, they are major grassroots funders of Puzzle Jam Global, and they were why we were inspired to do this, an at-home event in your PJs. They're why we could offer honorariums to our speakers. And then you guys, all of our puzzle community, we love you so much. More than 100 people show up every session today, which blows my mind. Tara's been reposting any stories that she catches on Instagram of people watching it and putting it up on bed sheets across the room during puzzle swaps. All of the really cool ways that the community is coming together. Let's have a big cheer from everybody at home. I want to hear the clapping and everything in Georgia. This is our crew that made this happen today. Joyce did an amazing job of Master Ceremonies. Debbie was totally on it. She had to, I'm just going to call her Big Brain Debbie because she had to do like all the troubleshooting with everybody. Tara and I have been planning this since at least January. That's a wrap. Love and pieces, y'all.
Have a great day, everybody.
Hi! If you've made it to this part of the video, it means that you have just finished watching a Puzzle Jam Global session. Puzzle Jam Global is brought to you by Puzzle Jam Inc. and our members, and we wanted to thank them as well as our presenters who made this event possible. Now that we're on your puzzle radar, you don't want to miss out on any of the other puzzle events that we have planned. So go to the link in our description and sign up for our newsletter. Our newsletter is about once a month, and you'll be in the know for our great events like Puzzle Jam Global and our in-person event, Puzzle Jam South. And I know that you appreciated this event because you watched the video. So if you would like to support us by becoming a member, sign up on the newsletter to know when the membership opens. Because we couldn't do this without you, our puzzle community. Now take a couple of minutes to go sign up on our newsletter and then go watch another session of Puzzle Jam Global. Bye!